Greetings, fellow humans. Katrina here. Quick disclaimer, I'm a professional, not your professional. Nothing I'm about to say should be taken as medical, legal, or otherwise advised. This podcast is purely for education and entertainment. That is it. Disclaimer over. So I thought I'd talk a bit about what I don't know about attachment styles today. And I don't know a lot about attachment styles. I've heard that there's a lot of different types. So let's get into it. There's this book that is really good. It's called Attached. It says the new science of adult attachment and how it can help you find and keep love. So they really describe the attachment styles, go into depth about them. There's this thing where it's like the 5 golden rules. We'll get into that in a moment. And this was written by Amir Levine, MD, and Rachel Heller, MA. I believe that's a Master's of Arts, the MD, medical doctor, right? So they collaborated and came up with some golden rules for deciphering attachment styles. And this is from page 62, like I said, of their book Attached. So it says there's 5 golden rules to help you hone in on someone's attachment style. The first one, well, let me go over what they are first, and then we'll go into them. So the first one is determine whether they seek intimacy and closeness. The second one is assess how preoccupied they are with the relationship and how sensitive they are to rejection. Third, don't rely on one symptom. Look for various signs. 4, assess their reaction to effective communication. And 5, listen for what they're not saying or doing. So going back to 1, it says this is the number one question to ask yourself about your partner. And remember, it said determine whether they seek intimacy and closeness. So all other attachments, traits, and behaviors stem from this one overriding issue. If the answer is no, you can be pretty sure your partner or date has an avoidant attachment style. If the answer is yes, your partner or date has either a secure or anxious style. And it says to see chapter 3 to learn more about the 2 dimensions. And those are the things that determine the attachment styles. When trying to answer this question, let go of preconceptions. There is no one type of personality that is avoidant, nor one that is either secure or anxious. He might be cocky and self assured and still really crave closeness. On the flip side, she may be nerdy and clumsy and still be averse to intimacy. Ask yourself, what does this particular behavior indicate about their attitude toward intimacy and closeness? Are they doing or not doing something because they want to minimize intimacy? Suppose you are dating someone with children from a previous marriage. She might not want to introduce you to them because she is thinking of their well being and believes it's too early for them to deal with a new man in her life, which is perfectly legitimate. On the other hand, it could be a way for her to keep you at a distance and maintain her separate life. You have to look at the whole picture and see how this behavior fits in. Depending on how much time has passed and how serious the relationship is, does it still seem right for her to be so protective of the kids? What makes sense in the initial stages of the relationship doesn't make sense after 2 years. Does she introduce you to other family members and close friends? Has she considered your well being and explained the situation, allowing you to express your feelings about it? If the answer is to any of these questions is no, then this is not just about her children's best interests, it's more about keeping you at bay. I've heard of like the 6 month rule. Side note, I've heard of like the 6 month rule where people don't necessarily introduce their significant other to their children until after they've been together for 6 months exclusively. So that's an interesting one. It says 2 years in this book. So yeah, that makes sense. Number 2, it says assess how preoccupied they are with the relationship and how sensitive they are to rejection. Not gonna lie, rejection sucks. So with that in mind, it says, does he easily get hurt by things you say? Is he worried about your future together or about whether you love him enough to stay faithful? Is he very sensitive to details in the relationship that suggest distancing, such as when you make decisions that don't take him into account? If the answer to these questions is yes, it is likely he has an anxious attachment style. And it goes on later to talk about how anxious want lots of closeness in their relationship. They express insecurities, worry about rejection, and they're unhappy when they're not in a relationship. Number 3, though, says don't rely on one symptom. Look for various signs. It says looking at One behavior, attitude, or belief is not enough to determine your partner's attachment style. That is why there is no one characteristic that can establish someone's style, but rather a combination of behavior and attitudes that together create a coherent pattern. Is It is the whole picture that tells the true story. Not being allowed to meet your partner's kids can be very frustrating, but if she is also able to talk about this subject, listen to your frustration, and find other ways to let you into her life, it doesn't necessarily indicate an inability to be close. Number 4 says assess their reaction to effective communication. This is probably one of the most important ways to uncover your partner's attachment style. Don't be afraid to express your needs, thoughts, and feelings to your partner, it says with an exclamation point. And in chapter 11, it actually has more information about effective communication. It says what often happens when we're dating is that we censor ourselves for different reasons. We don't want to sound too eager or needy, or we believe it's too soon to raise a certain topic. However, expressing your needs and true feelings can be a useful litmus test of the other person's capacity to meet your needs. The response in real time is usually much more telling than anything they could ever reveal of their own accord. So, if they're secure, they're going to understand and do what's best to accommodate your needs. If they're anxious, you'll serve as a useful role model. They will welcome the opportunity for greater intimacy and start to become more direct and open. If they are avoidant, they will feel very uncomfortable with the increased intimacy that your emotional disclosure brings and will respond in one of the following ways. Quote, you're too sensitive, demanding, needy. I don't want to talk about it. Stop analyzing everything. What do you want from me? I didn't do anything wrong. They will consider your needs on a certain matter only to disregard them again very soon after. And lastly, they might say, geez, I said I was sorry. So, number 5, listen and look for what they're not saying or doing. What goes unsaid or undone by your partner can be just as informative as what they're doing and saying. Trust your gut feeling. Consider these examples. At midnight on New Year's Eve, Rob kissed his girlfriend and said, I'm so glad to be with you. I hope this will be the first of many New Years for us together. His girlfriend kissed him back, but did not reply. 2 months later, they separated. During an argument, Pat told her boyfriend, Jim, that it bothered her that they never made plans ahead of time. She felt more comfortable and secure if she had advance notice and a better sense of their plans. Jim didn't answer. He just changed the subject. He continued calling only at the last minute. She mentioned it again, but he again ignored her. Finally, Pat gave up on the relationship. In these cases, what Rob's girlfriend and Jim didn't say spoke louder than any words. So those are the 5 golden rules of attachment styles. Well, for deciphering attachment styles. And that was on page 62 through page 65 of that book I mentioned, Attached, The New Science of Adult Attachment and How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love by Levine and Heller. So if you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and click the button to support the show. And remember, I appreciate each and every one of you simply for existing.